All right, so we're going to start Unit 5 on our triangles. So we get to start looking at shapes now, and we're going to look at the triangles. So here we have our triangle classifications, and this should not be anything new. We should know our triangle classifications. So we can classify our triangles by their sides and their angles. So if we classify it by their sides, the first one we're going to talk about is scalene. And there are no congruent sides. No congruent sides. So that means if I draw a triangle, ooh, that's a bad triangle. If I draw a triangle over here, that means this side, and this side are all different lengths, and my tick marks there indicate those are different lengths. Okay, so no congruent sides. If we look at isosceles, and that's isosceles triangle, then there are two congruent sides. So we have a triangle that has two markings the same and one marking that is not. So that's an isosceles triangle. And then we have equilateral. Equal meaning equal, lateral meaning sides, so that has all three congruent sides. Equilateral, all three sides are equal, and they would all three have the same marking. Okay, then we can classify our triangle by the angles, and the first one we have is acute, which means there are three acute angles in the triangle. Three acute angles in the triangle. So those would all be less than 90 degrees. And they could all three be different. Then we have a right triangle, and that has one right angle, just one. And we're familiar, we've worked with a lot of right angles and perpendicular lines that meet at a 90-degree angle. So there's the right angle. And then we have an obtuse triangle. And you have one obtuse angle. And that means that angle has to be more than 90 degrees. And there's our obtuse angle. Okay, so those are our different types of triangles, and from that we have some theorems that go along with them. So the first one is the triangle sum theorem, and you should all be familiar with this one. The sum of all the angles in a triangle, all three angles, add up to 180. So triangle A plus B plus C is going to add up to 180. All the angles in a triangle add up to 180. That is the triangle sum theorem. Then we have the exterior angle theorem. An exterior angle, that would be angle D here, of a triangle is equal to the sum of the two opposite interior angles. They're also called remote interior angles. Okay, so this may also be viewed as remote interior angles, and that's going to be, this is the exterior one, that's angle D here, and here, and here. Those are the opposite interiors, so they're opposite the angle. Those are the opposite interiors. So angle D, the one on the outside, is going to equal the two on the inside, A plus C. Okay? And the reason that is because B and D are a linear pair. And then we have A all the angles inside the triangle add up to 180. And then if we go back to the linear pair, those add up to 180. So we have A plus B plus C equals B plus D. And since they have B in common, we can eliminate it. So we have A plus B plus C equals 180. And then we have the linear pair B plus D equals 180. We have a property called transitive property. Since this is equal to 180 and this is equal to 180, then A plus B plus C would equal the D plus B. And I'm going to run off the edge. That's a B. And then because they both have B, I can take B away. And then I get A plus C equals D. So those two here on the opposite side of D add up to equal D. Okay, then we have our base angles theorem. Two angles of a triangle are congruent if and only if. That's our IFF, if and only if. The opposite sides of those angles are congruent. So what it's saying is if I have these two sides that are equal, then if I look directly across from it, then these two angles are equal, and vice versa. The if and only if says I can go backwards too. So if I notice my two angles are equal, then that implies that the two sides across from those angles are equal as well. And our equilateral angles theorem, if three sides of the triangle are congruent, if and only if the angles opposite those sides are congruent. So if all three angles are congruent, then all three sides are congruent, and vice versa. If we know all three sides are congruent, then all three angles are congruent. So it doesn't matter what length it is, all of the angles, since I have A plus B plus C equal to 180, they all three add up to 180 and they're all the same, then I would have three of one angle, and I'll just pick A. So if they're all the same and they're all A, then I get 3 A's are equal to 180, which makes each angle 60 degrees. Okay, so every angle in an equilateral triangle is 60 degrees. Okay, so now we're going to practice. Here we have our triangle sum theorem. I want to find out what the measure of angle X is. So I know that all three angles in a triangle add up to 180. So I'm going to get 42 plus 86 plus the X. That's going to add up to equal 180. So I would combine these terms. It gives me 128 plus X equals 180. And that means I would subtract 128 from both sides to find out what X is. And I got to borrow. That's going to go to 7. That's going to go to 10. So I get 52. So my missing angle here is 52. Then I throw in a little bit of algebra in here with it. Same concept. I still have three angles in a triangle, but now there are algebra in there. So I have 3x plus 2, there's one angle, plus 5x minus 10, there's my second angle, plus x, there's my third angle, and I know they add up to equal 180. So then I just combine like terms. So I'm going to add all my x's, 3x plus 5x plus x, that's 9x. And then I have my numbers, so I have 2 plus negative 10, that gives me negative 8 equals 180. Then I'm going to add 8 to both sides. 9x equals 188. And then I divide by 9. And x is going to equal, 9 goes into 18 twice with 0 left over, and 9 does not go into 8, so that would be a 0. And I would have 8/9 left over, so 20 and 8/9. That would be my x. Okay, so here's working with the isosceles triangle, and I can tell that because my sides are marked congruent. So based on that theorem, if my sides are marked congruent, then my angles across those sides are congruent. So if this angle is 34, then this one also has to be 34. These are also called base angles. The two sides that are congruent, those angles are called base angles, and those would be the ones that are the same. And then the one that is not the base angle is called the vertex angle. That's called the vertex angle. So now I know that if two sides are equal, then two of my angles are equal. So this one's 34, then this one's 34. So then I can go to the triangle sum theorem that says, okay, all three angles have to add up to 180. I have a question mark there. So I double that and I get 68 plus my question mark would equal 180. So I can find the vertex angle by subtracting 68. And my question mark, gotta borrow, becomes 112. So my vertex angle is 112 degrees. Okay, so this time my congruent sides are here and here, so it's tilted. It's not forward facing like this one. But so wherever the side is, you just draw arrows. So these two are the same, and those two are the ones that are missing. And this time I have my base angle, my vertex angle. So I still know that 100 plus the question mark equals 180, and I know these two are the same. So I can combine those. So I have 100 plus two question marks equal 180. And I'm going to subtract 100, and I get two question marks equal 80. Then I can divide it by 2, and each question mark is 40 degrees. So 40 plus 40 is the 80, and then 80 plus 100 is 180. Okay, now here is the equilateral triangle. Since all three sides are equal, that means all three angles are equal. So I have three question marks that give me 180. And it doesn't matter what size they are because every equilateral triangle has 60-degree angles. Every equilateral triangle has 60-degree angles. Okay, here is the exterior angle. It's on the outside of the triangle, which means all I need to do is add the two opposite interior angles together. So I just need to add these together. So 58 plus 36 equals the exterior angle. This is the exterior angle. And if I add that up, I get 14, carry my 1, and I get a 94. So this outside angle is 94 degrees. And that is my exterior angle application. Okay, so now it's going to be your turn to practice.